In the Tony Only Gallery, in the middle space there, we have an artist who I first met back in 1992 or 1991. I was dear friends with her sister, Renee. We were both students at UVic, and she told me that her sister was coming down and I should meet her. And we met, and she hated me for a long time. But over the years, we patched up that, and we became very dear friends. And her family, her parents adopted me, and I spent many a wonderful Christmas in Naramata out there. But all through those years, Melanie was making art. She was making prints, making artist books, selling them at the market in Victoria, selling them on BC ferries in their little, when they had the great market kiosk before they got rid of those guys and put in the wonderful mall and raised our prices for the ferry. And I started hating BC ferries. But all said and done, Melanie still made art. She went to Taipei, where she was teaching English with her sister Renee. I went and lived on their floor for 6 months, but Melanie still made art over there. She then went on to China, has gone on to Turkey, and on to the
United Arab Emirates.
There you are, the United Arab Emirates, making art all the time. She made incredible, both her and her sister made amazing journals of their journeys. And when I first saw them, I thought of Nick Bantock as well, and I thought, God, what a great thing if I could one day have the opportunity I could show both these artists together in the same place. And lo and behold, circumstance and everything made it happen, and Melanie moved back to Canada from United Arab Emirates and everywhere else, and so I'm thrilled to introduce Melanie Mehrer.
Thanks for coming. That's all.
Melanie, she'll be talking tomorrow at 1 o'clock. I invite you to come down to talk with her. Her work is for sale as well. I know a bunch of them being snapped up, so if you are interested, I'm sure there won't be much left at the end of the show. So you can talk to Melanie or talk to Dawn at the front desk there as well. And our final show that we have going on right now is a show that I first was hoping to do. Well, I grew up collecting stamps, and how I got into art was through my stamp collection, because in fact I tried to make a complete collection of Canadian stamps. After collecting stamps as a child, when I went to university and got a student loan, my one class that I had, I took a class in accounting. And you can ask Rosemary here, that's not my strong suit. But I hated it so much, I found an auction, stamp auction happened every Tuesday in Victoria at the same time as my accounting class. I thought, well, what better practice of accounting is to take my student loan, go down to the stamp auction and spend it on stamps. And I had my Scots guide the stamps, and it told me that the stamp would just pay, $25 for it was actually worth $2,500. I was so excited. I thought, look at the profit margin here. And by January of that year, I had gone through my entire student loan. I was broke, and my girlfriend was at the time said, I'm tired of supporting you. You got to get a job. So lo and behold, I tried to get a job. I couldn't find a job for a long time, so I ended up selling my stamp collection. I was really disappointed because I added it all up, and it was worth like $25,000. I was so excited. I went back to the stamp guy who had bought my stamps from me, presented him my stamp collection, and said, "How much would you give me for this?" And he said, "I'll give you about $500. And I said, "I just spent $3,000 student loan on this collection." He goes, "And its catalog value's worth $25,000. He goes, "I know, but you paid $3,000 for it. I got to make some money off of it. So I'll give you $500. So I was desperate. I sold my stamp collection for $500. And while I was waiting for the bus, trying to get back to explain, everything else to my girlfriend, how bad my accounting was, I happened for the first time to walk into a Salvation Army thrift store, and I found this old photograph lying there, wrapped up in butcher string, and in it was autographed and dedicated to this woman who was arisen from this fellow. He was in a suit and looked all snappy and sharp, and I thought, well, if he's dedicated a photo to somebody, he must be someone famous, and this photograph must be worth something. So I spent $5 on it and took it home and found out that the guy was nothing. He was some minister of the oil of the federal government in the 1940s. But the photograph was taken by a guy named Joseph Karsh. And so I wrote to Joseph Karsh, and he wrote me back a letter with a signed self-portrait, and that's what got me started collecting art. And I got picked here to this job here in Penticton. But along the way, I found the books of Nick Bantock, and I was inspired by what he did. And you can ask Melanie or any of the other people who know me a long time. I'm a horrible hoarder as well of ephemera. I love the trappings of people's lives and the stories you can make from them. I'd much rather find a photo album in a thrift store or somewhere else and make make up a story than have someone sit down and show me their photos of their vacation they just came back from. And it sounds so callous and cold, but it is so much more fascinating when you can create the story where there isn't a story. At least there isn't one that you know of. And so I tried to get in touch with Nick when I was in the Grand Forks Art Gallery. And at that time, he was very polite. And he said, you know, I'd love to do it, but at that time, I've got these books I'm doing. And the last thing I can really put my head around is doing an exhibition in the gallery. And so then we chatted some more. And then I talked to Tina Barrett. And Tina Barrett said, I think Nick's got this show that's happening down in Colorado or something. Maybe this might be the time. So I wrote to Nick again, and then we talked on the phone, and we went for a meeting and to see if it would be a good fit. And it just so happened that the shipping would come back through, well, it wasn't come through Penticton, but it would be easy to ship the show through Penticton on the way back to Salt Spring Island. And we talked, and it worked out, and a year and a half later, I'm thrilled to be able to present this exhibition here, and I certainly thank you, Nick, for hanging the show. And as you can see, it's a rather extensive show, and what you don't see is all the work that was edited out of the show. It was an absolutely massive amount of work, and it's been a real pleasure and a gift to have this here in Penticton.
Glenn, too.
Glenn would do a lot of work. Glenn, with his hammering, he's hammered a lot of nails, so Glenn Clark is certainly huge as well. But I want to thank you very much. I'm thrilled. And this is, if I'm not mistaken, the first Canadian stop of your first ever retrospective exhibition.